Welcome to Spirits and Cousins. I'm Tish.
And I'm Courtney.
And we're excited today. We've got some cool stuff coming up. Today, our episode is Ask Courtney. Questions from our listeners. Are you ready, Courtney?
I'm ready. I'm excited.
Well, let's get this show rolling. We get a lot of questions from listeners that come into our Gmail account, and we thought this is a good segue before we get into the Halloween season. And oh, by the way, we have some exciting interviews during the month of October we'll be publishing, right, Courtney?
Yes.
So this is a good kind of in-between season while we're preparing for Halloween in October to bring together a bunch of the questions that we've gotten from listeners for Courtney. And so today's episode is going to be about all the questions that listeners have that they want to hear your take on, Courtney.
Yeah.
Now, I know you've been busy. I know that you, between all the tours, investigations, the day job during the day, switching to a new job, you've been busy. So hopefully this will get us back on track and we get to answer all the stuff that people have been asking you to answer.
Yes. I'm excited to read the questions and respond to you guys.
Great. Well, I've narrowed it down to more than a handful of questions, but nonetheless, there's a list. And I think the best thing to do is first to say that we've got so many questions. We don't want this pod to be 2 hours long. So we won't talk about what we're drinking today. We're going to hop right in to asking Courtney, who, for all of you, if you don't remember, Courtney is a sensitive. She's an empath. She is learning to develop her medium skills. Although whenever I say you're a medium, she goes, well, I don't really use them and I haven't really, really practiced them. But yeah, I have those natural skills. She also does all the work with healing and Reiki. And as you all know, she is a paranormal researcher. She does tours, and she's been involved in all this stuff for over 20 years. I'm not aging you because you're only 23, but so she really is an expert, so much so that more and more she's getting tapped to do interviews and podcasts. And I know, why don't you share one of the more recent ones you just did so people can tune into that?
I am so excited. I got to be on Strange Darkness Radio. They recently put out the episode, so go to their page and check it out. It was really fun.
That's great. Yeah, I listened to it and you sounded great. And, it's different when you're not running your own show to do an interview, isn't it? Where you're not having to worry about as many things.
Yes, it was different than being a podcast host, and they were a good time.
And I think there's going to be more of that coming up. And, I know that Courtney has a lot of people on her list of folks that we want to talk to. And so there's nothing but exciting things coming up. But I want to remind everyone that we do this because of your support. So please rate us on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Those things matter. Follow us on Instagram and on TikTok. Courtney's doing a lot on TikTok with different shorts and snippets of things you're not going to hear on the podcast, investigations, pictures, videos, and she's got a whole group of shorts that she's working on over the next few months. So I encourage all of you to like us, follow us. We're also on YouTube. Every one of our podcasts is on YouTube. So please go on there and follow us. These things matter. And in the meantime, we hope to be able to keep out all the advertising that you hear about on these podcasts by the support you give us across those platforms. And don't forget, spiritsandcousins@gmail.com. We want to hear your stories. Courtney wants to hear your stories. We'll have you on.
Yes.
If you don't want to be on, Courtney will tell your story, but we want to hear about your experiences. Right, Court?
Oh, absolutely. I love hearing about other people's experiences. It just makes you feel like you're not alone in this when people share. And it also then tells me about other places that might be great for us to go investigate too.
That's right. And speaking of investigations, I have to ask, because I keep getting asked by a lot of people, when are you going to be able to start doing investigations and things like that at Big Sur Lighthouse and the Naval Station?
We're working on it because it's a nonprofit organization. It just takes time and has to go through 2 different boards for approval. So I'm still hoping. I'm still talking to the people who I need to talk to about it. We're working to make this happen.
Well, it'd be great to be able to, for us to be able to do an investigation at the Naval Station, possibly have a group of people that we take out there, and the money that's made from that goes directly to the Naval Station as the nonprofit.
Exactly. So while it's governed by the California State Parks, it actually does not get any money from them. So any of the money that we get from the weekend tours and any money that we would get from doing an investigation there would go to restoration of the buildings. And it's pretty needed out there. That support is really needed.
It is. I can tell everyone on this pod that they're so excited to have Courtney, somebody that's new to the group that comes with the background she does. And we're so lucky along that Central Coast to have such a vibrant kind of spiritual and paranormal community and things to investigate. So many that are well known, and they're right there in our backyard. We can't even keep up with all the things we can and should be doing.
Yes, it is hard. There's so many places to visit and explore.
So hopefully
even within the hour of us.
Yes. And hopefully everyone has enjoyed some of the podcasts we've done in and around Monterey. We'll keep those coming. And that part of the country is becoming very popular with all the TV shows and the well-known investigators as well. So I think there's more to come there, but I can assure you that Courtney is quickly becoming the local expert in that area. At least there's only a few that are really well known, and you're getting so much of the backstory. You're getting into places that people can't normally get into. So we're going to be sharing that with everybody in the next, several months.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay, let's hop into it. Again, these are questions from our listeners for Courtney. You know what? I didn't get any questions. I know that I just do the tech stuff and pull this all together and do the editing, but I have to carry all this shit when we're out doing the investigations and look at and help research and all the equipment that we use. But I didn't get any questions. They're all for you.
But maybe you will soon, because you are also gaining more sensitivity the more investigations that you go on. You've become more and more sensitive. The last several, you've felt the shift of energies.
That's true.
And you've even smelled.
Yes.
Ghost smells.
Yes, that's true. But between the two of us, I'm the one that runs. I'm like, I gotta get out of here, and I run away. And Courtney stays behind. That's going to be one of the questions today is around, whether you get scared. So let's hop into this and see where we go. Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. So these are questions from listeners. We got literally hundreds, and I narrowed it down to the ones that I thought would be most relevant. We'll do a question, a Q&A session with Courtney. Now I know a few times a year. And we'll start with question number 1. So this is from a listener in Germany. How many years have you been involved in paranormal research?
I've done it as a hobby for about the last 20 years. And I've gotten more and more involved the more that my skill set has changed and been enhanced or increased. The more sensitive I've become. And also the more places I've been to, because a lot of places are haunted, and not meaning in a bad way, haunted just meaning they're spirits that hang out.
And over the last 20 plus years, have you found that there are times when you've been more involved than others? Like right now, it's probably at its peak, right?
Yes.
And how did you, when you started out and you did it as a hobby, how did you pursue that? How did you get involved?
I mean, it all stems from when I figured out that I was an empath and then started getting involved in the metaphysical community. The more people I met with a variety of skill set, the more curious I became. And the more curious I became about my own skill set and what it is that I have access to, and even how to grow those skills.
So did you contact a local group? Did you start doing it by yourself, or did you have friends that were doing it?
When I discovered I was an empath, then I started by going to basically a pagan Wiccan meet and greet. And that's how I met people who helped me figure out how to help manage being an empath. And then I saw an advertisement for an event called Aurapalooza, and that's in Minneapolis. A local person there, Echo Bodine, who people might have heard of her because she's been on shows in the past. Not our shows, but other TV shows in the past. She has this event where she has people who have metaphysical skill sets, whether it's reading tarot cards, oracle cards, healing, like Reiki, psychics, aura readings. She has all those people at her Aurapaloozas, and you can go up to whoever and pay for what you would like to experience. So she used to have them every single month. And then with COVID, of course, and all those different things, she had stopped, but she is doing them again. So if you're in the St. Paul, Minneapolis area, go check out Echo Bodine's Aurapalooza. So through that, I met a couple different people, and one of them in particular took me under her wing. Her name was Vaughn. She taught me how to read oracle and tarot cards. She helped me learn how to navigate my intuition. So she was a huge catalyst for me increasing my skill set and becoming more and more curious about what all of this is.
Okay. I mean, you've done so much. Okay, let's move on. So here's a question from somebody in California.
Ooh.
What is the scariest, only from California where the drama is, right? What is the scariest investigation you went on and why?
The interesting thing, or at least I think it's interesting about me, is I don't get too scared. I will not watch horror movies. I will not watch psychological thrillers, things like that, because I don't want to be all clenched up with that. That's not a great escape for me. I would say the scariest investigation I went on, but I didn't even know it was that scary until afterwards, was the Concord Exchange building on the west side of St. Paul. And it was more scary after the fact because of what was happening to me after it happened. Because back then I didn't know how to set intentions And I just did things because I thought, hey, I can do this. I can clear this. I can do these, which is wonderful, but also you don't always want to jump right in. You need to do other pieces first, such as setting intentions and really observe and figure out what is going on.
That makes sense. So that was the scariest, but even that, we've talked about that before.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't sound like you're the kind of person and the kind of investigator in general that gets scared. How would you describe, like, when you go on these things? I'm the one that gets scared, but you never get scared. Maybe you can go into that, because I think a lot of people, when they see some of this stuff, and we're taught how to react via horror movies, unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't really get scared.
No, I get like at Los Coches, that was a scary experience. But I wasn't even that scared. I was more anxious about what was happening around us. I wasn't necessarily scared. And I think it's because I truly don't believe anything is going to harm me. I come at it through curiosity and exploration. And I want to explore what is happening in that moment and what's going on and how can I help. And I think that's why I don't really get scared, because I just believe that nothing is going to happen to me.
Yeah. I have to get to that place. I'm always afraid something's going to follow me or, pull my covers off when I get home.
Yeah. And a lot of people are scared of the unknown because you can't see it. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know what's out there. And I think why people get so scared when they hear or see a cabinet door closing on its own, or things falling off a shelf in a garage, but no one was there to do it. It is easy to be scared of the unknown because you can't see it. And I think that's a piece for me of why I don't also get scared, is because I can feel what's going on around me. So if something does feel more negative or angry or upset, I can feel that and I know how to better respond to it than if I couldn't feel it.
Yeah, that makes. Okay, so let's move on to our next question. And this is from somebody in California. Is it common for empaths, sensitives, and mediums to venture into paranormal research and investigations?
Yes and no. It's definitely clearly a possibility to do this, but I know some other mediums who just do it for service, meaning they opened up a business and people can go to them and say, hi, I would like to contact so and so. So it's a mixed bag. For example, I don't do that, but that's one of the ways that I got into this, is by meeting someone who does.
I've noticed that many of the shows we're familiar with on TV, they tend to create a show and then look at how they might develop some of those skills or bring people on, versus the other part of the population that's involved in paranormal and research and investigations. They first have natural skills, develop additional skills, and as a result of that, of helping people and spirits, venture into paranormal research. And often, my experience from my standpoint has been that those are the most authentic ones, and they don't have as much of the shock value, and they are more interested in how they help the people and the people on the show. You can definitely tell the people that are in it to help and the people that are in it to prosper from it.
Yeah, I agree. I also know that my own skill set is different. Everyone has a different skill set in terms of these metaphysical abilities. And with my skill set, I'm very lucky and grateful that I can get information in a variety of ways, but that I'm also a healer. And not everyone who is a medium is a healer. Why that helps me is because I can clear spaces. I can help spirits move on. There's other pieces of that I can do to help heal the space and those within it, whether they're an actual human being or some type of a ghost spirit entity. So not every medium has that capability.
Right. Makes
But
sense.
many of us do.
Good. Good answer. Good answer. Okay, the next question we have is from a listener in California, which makes sense because that's where a lot of this stuff is produced from. So here's the question. I've heard rumors that you're going to be on one of the popular ghosty TV shows soon. Is this true?
Rumors are so funny. I'm not sure how that one got out, but it is true. I am so excited. I had an amazing opportunity and such a fantastic experience, and I'll let you guys know when I'm able to. Stay tuned in the fall, though.
So you're going to let everyone know when you're able to share when and where and what it is.
Yes, absolutely. And then we'll have a discussion about it after.
I will just say it's one of the most popular ghosty shows. And I'll just leave it at that. Okay. Next question from our listener. This is from somebody in New York. Have you ever investigated a true demonic haunting or infestation?
Yes and no. Yes, because of the different entities that I've dealt with. I've also experienced some demon portals in a space in Riverside, in the Riverside neighborhood of Minneapolis. I worked and dealt with that and experienced that. But like James Anito says, it is not common that a demon comes through. So the things I've dealt with may or may not be considered demons. I consider them more entities. But I have been around people who subconsciously bring demons through. And that, while I don't easily get scared, that is scary because you know me, Tish. You know how I work and how important it is to set intentions and to be very aware of what's going on, what you bring in, and how to not bring it home with you. So a person was playing around in this paranormal world, and I don't believe consciously brought them through, but I do believe created the demons because of their struggles, their loneliness.
Like they're like friends.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's why setting intentions and understanding what you're doing to the best that you can is so important because you just don't know what you are capable of bringing in and creating.
What's the quickest way you can share to remind our listeners they're not all expert investigators? What's setting intentions? How do you set intentions when you start an investigation or whatever it is you're doing where you're trying to communicate with spirit? And how do you close it out?
So, for example, when we do investigations, I don't always say it out loud. Sometimes it's in my head. Sometimes I say it before we even go to the investigation. And I will often set the intention of something like, we want to experience everything that we can in a safe way, but also we want to have the experience so that way we can help people or help spirits and entities cross and do what they need to do to heal. And at the same time, not come home with us. So they either need to be healed and go to their original home or stay in the space that they're in. Spirits are never allowed. None of that's ever allowed to come home with us. So,
No.
for example, the ghost tours, because I get a variety of people coming through as I'm walking up to Colton Hall, which is where the tour starts. I set the intention in my head that we have a lot of fun, that the guests are able to have some really neat and positive experiences with the spirits that hang out, and that the spirits can choose to ask for healing and to move on, or they can choose to stay in the space that they're in. Or maybe they're not earthbound and they can come and go as they please. But basically, that they're not allowed to come home with us. And I also tell the guests that, as well as please do not encourage them to go home with you. That is not allowed.
Have you ever been part of an exorcism?
I have not. I leave that up to the people who specialize that, like James Anito.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's
That's
not
probably
something I
why
want to.
he's become quite a friend of the podcast.
He is such a cool human. We have him coming up soon, too.
Yes, yes, during the month of October. Okay, on to the next question for Courtney. This one comes out of New York. What do you consider to be some of the most haunted locations in the U.S.?
I personally love places that aren't frequently explored. That's one of my favorite things, is to go in and see what's going on. So some of the places that I think are the most haunted aren't necessarily common. For example, the former Anoka Mental Health Institute Hospital, that is incredibly haunted. I had some fascinating experiences when I got to be there. The Stockyard Exchange Building, the Concord Building in St. Paul, is very haunted. There's the old flour mill caves in Minneapolis that are quite haunted. Los Coches Adobe, we've already explored that. That is absolutely one of the most haunted places I've ever been in. And in terms of how you asked about scariness earlier, that was a place where I felt on edge. I wasn't scared per se, but I was definitely on edge, constantly scanning what was going on. Point Sur Lighthouse is very haunted. It's such a cool space. And when I say haunted, I don't mean haunted in always bad ways. Haunted just means there's spirits who hang out there. There's a house I once cleared in Minneapolis that was incredibly haunted, and I would say more on that demonic end. The person who owned that house brought them in. The Wabasha Street Caves in St. Paul, Minnesota is haunted and also in neat waves. Gangsters used to hang out there. Big Sur, the Dark Watchers, although I have my own theory of what's happening there. And I really, really want to explore Waverly, Eloise, the Preston Castle, the Cerro Gordo Ghost Town, the Queen Mary, the Court of Mysteries I recently found out about. So there's lots of
Wow.
places I want to explore, and I tend to love the off the beaten path ones.
Well, I don't know. This isn't a question from a listener, but I'm curious to know your take on locations that are constantly investigated. Do you think that they can get stale over time, or what do you think happens when you take a place like Waverly that's been investigated, I mean, probably hundreds of times by every major paranormal research group? Do you think it changes the location? Do you think it becomes less or more active? What are your views on that?
I think it could go either way. What concerns me is, and I'm not saying that this is what people are doing. I don't know because I haven't explored places like Waverly and Eloise. I get concerned that it's being viewed as entertainment, where I go in, and I think a lot of us go in to help, to want to know how we can help heal. Because spirits don't really always want to be entertainment, although they have free will. So they do, if they choose to stay and be entertainment, that's their option. But that is what concerns me about places that have been investigated over and over and over again. As someone who works with behavior, I just wonder then at what point are the spirits being attention seeking? At what point do they do these things because that's what's expected of them because of how the space is treated? And again, this is just speculation because I haven't been in those places.
Sure.
And I think that's also why I like the off the beaten path spots more, because you're going in with a fresh eye, with not many people having talked about it or having used it in more of an entertainment way.
I'm always curious if a location can get used up. And some people have conversations, some people confront and are aggressive with the energy and the spirits. And I just always wonder what impact that has on the location overall.
It's a great question. So when I was frequently going on tours, when I was first learning paranormal things, the ghost tours in the Riverside neighborhood of Minneapolis, I did notice changes going on over time, meaning a lot less engagement of the spirits. And then it changed to be more dark than it just turned to be more dark, that there appeared to be more entities coming through than it was the spirits who had been there when I first started going.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, they
Mhm.
probably get irritated and pissed off too when they're bothered all the time and
Yeah.
threatened and confronted and yelled at,
Yeah. And
Um,
every time I went, I also asked the spirits, all right, who wants to go? I'm happy to help heal you so you can go home if that's what you would like. So there were several that did end up choosing to go. So
okay.
that also then changed the environment.
Next question is from someone from Kansas City. What are the best questions to ask spirits and ghosts during an investigation?
That is a great question. And I have to admit, I don't necessarily prepare what questions I'm going to ask during an investigation. And Tish, we've done this long enough. You know how I work. I want my goal, one of my goals is to have conversations with them, because spirits don't often like to be hammered with questions. They want to have back and forth discussion, because if you think about it, when you meet someone new, you don't hammer them with questions, but you have conversations to get to know each other, and you build that connection and relationship. So I treat spirits the same way. I want to build that connection and experience that moment with them instead of provoking or being 20 or playing 20 questions. So I like to experience spirits through conversation. So I will ask the typical questions. What's your name? What years were you physically here on Earth? How old are you? I'll often even ask if there had any pets that might be still hanging out, things like that. I want to actually get to know the spirits that I hang out with.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, there's more of a trend to have a conversation and treat them as if they're intelligent entities versus, some of the questions in the Q&A and during these investigations, it's almost like you're taunting them. Well, of course they're going to get
Mhm.
angry. And, for some researchers, they want that. They want them angry. They want to taunt them. They want to get them to do something, you know, aggressive or harsh just for the shock factor of it. And
Mhm.
that probably is not a good thing to do.
I don't think so. I find I get better responses from the spirits when I'm engaging in more of a conversation than when I'm asking a ton of questions.
Well, we have a great follow up question to this from someone from Minnesota. How do you protect yourself from negative energies during ghost hunting and investigations?
That's a good question. I don't. I don't, because I want to experience what is going on there. If I'm at a space where I'm not intentionally hanging out with spirits, but I sense the energies. I do on a daily basis wear a smoky quartz, but that's more for work, because what a smoky quartz can do is take like negative energy and transmute it into positive energy. So I'll wear that during the day for work, because in hopes of helping to diffuse the different things that can occur in my day job. But when I go out on investigations, I don't protect myself unless you consider setting intentions protection.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to experience it. I want to be able to also see how I can help assist them. For example, if they want to go to their home, I want to be able to ask them. And if I'm wearing a smoky quartz during an investigation, that's not going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good to know. So what you're saying is you shouldn't go to an investigation wearing garlic around your neck and things that are going to prevent spirits, ghosts, whatever, from interacting. I use garlic because of vampires.
I know, I love it.
But that's why you don't wear and have your crystals on you when you're doing that, right?
Correct. I will sometimes have a selenite in my bag, but that's more for afterwards and not during. It could, because the selenite can help clear energies off of you and help cleanse your aura. So that's why I might have it, but it's often in my car, sometimes in my bag, depending on what my intuition tells me I should do.
Okay.
But
next question, oh, go ahead.
Oh, when I go out, like for example, if I'm going to go to a concert, if I'm going to go to a fair, things like that, I will wear my smoky quartz because of all of the people who are around. I don't want, especially as a very strong empath, I don't want all of that stuff to come at me. And so I will also wear it when I'm out and about and just enjoying life, especially when I know I'm around crowds.
Okay. I know that I've noticed that you do that. Just for everyone listening, it's not like she walks around with a bag of rocks.
Sometimes I do.
Well, the next question I have, again, is I kind of grouped them together. It didn't come from any one particular listener because it came in several times. And that question is, if you don't naturally have intuitive skills, aren't a psychic, or don't believe you're sensitive, can this be learned?
Yes. I believe everyone has some kind of ability. We all have different skill sets, and it is absolutely possible to grow within it. One of the things that I experienced when I first started this is I often felt envy of other people and their skill sets because I wanted that. And that was very interesting to work through because envy is such a low vibration, low frequency emotion. And what I soon came to realize is that while some of us might have similar skills, so for example, someone else might be able to sense energies, but they might not be able to heal the energies, or they might sense the energies in a different way. So I get knowings with my intuition. I can feel shift in energy within my body, often coming as like goosebumps or hot and cold. I can also feel if things are like muddy or murky, which is often confusion. And not everyone gets that in the same way. And so that's where it's important to work through that envy, because we all have a skill set. We all can have opportunities to learn and grow within it, but also recognizing that each of us have different skill sets.
Well said. So we've got 2 more questions left. This one comes from somebody in Ohio. What's your favorite equipment to use when conducting an investigation?
Flashlights. I,
Flashlights.
yeah, I love the flashlights. It is such a visual experience because the flashlights are on the ground or on a table or something, and no one is touching them. Not one human in the room is touching them. And all of a sudden, a flashlight turns on or turns off or turns on or off to the question that you asked. It is such a neat experience because no one is near it. There's no way that you can dispute that something turned it on or turned it off, especially when they can do it on commands like, hey, please turn off the flashlight, and the flashlight turns off. You can't dispute that. The visual evidence is so clear. The hard part about flashlights is it doesn't directly tell you who is there. So, I could say, oh, are you Senora Soto? And the flashlight might turn on, and I have to take them at face value that, yes, that is Senora Soto. So that's the hard part about flashlights too, is it
Right.
is someone could be saying, sure, I'm Senora Soto, but not be. But I love it because it's so fun to see it turn on and then turn off. It's a really neat experience.
And it's simple. I notice that when when I go on investigations with you, we start off with all the equipment and then you narrow it down. And we're talking about probably 5 or 6 different types of equipment. And it always seems to get narrowed down to flashlights and maybe the spirit box.
Mm-hmm.
The recording of EVPs doesn't seem to happen often enough to really tell a story and answer questions. But the flashlights and the spirit box seem to return pretty good.
Yes. And dowsing rods too. I enjoy using dowsing rods. And it again is fascinating to watch them cross or spin.
Right.
But again, I'm holding them. And
Yep.
so if someone is watching, they could question if I'm moving them or not because I'm holding them. So that's what I love about the flashlights. They stand on their own.
So we have one last question. And this question, I'm not going to say who it came from, but it is somebody who is a paranormal researcher. And he asked that I don't share his name because he's not being interviewed. But it is our closing question. And that is, what do you see as the future of paranormal research?
That is a good question. I really hope that people will continue to do the research to get actual evidence. And while I do some medium work, I'm an intuitive. Clearly, I believe in this piece of it. I can't directly give people evidence because it's coming from my higher consciousness or the universe, the spirits themselves. But that's really hard to produce evidence with that. So I really hope that equipment continues to become more technological so we can get better evidence with what's actually happening in different dimensions or on the other side, in heaven, whatever you want to call it. Keep seeing that people work towards getting actual evidence that there are other things out there than just us humans.
That's very cool. I think that's a great answer. And that is the last question I have for you today. I'm sorry if I put you on the spot for too long.
No, that last one was a really good one.
But there'll be more to come on this. I think we're going to do these at least a few times a year because we get so many questions.
Yeah.
And again, thanks for taking the time to answer all these. And these are common. These are all very common questions we get. So I'm glad we took the time out. You all got to hear from the expert herself, Courtney, on her views and what is fact about a lot of this. And I think that the thing that comes through in all of this is that if you come at paranormal research from a place of helping people and helping spirits cross to the other side, I would think that you are authentic in doing the right thing. And I think that Courtney has always been driven by helping people, helping others, and really understanding who's on the other side and how to help them and the people that they're trying to communicate with. Mm-hmm. Any parting thoughts?
No, thank you guys for your questions. Please keep them coming in. We want to engage with your experiences and the different questions that you might have. And no question is stupid. So please get a hold of us, spiritsandcousins@gmail.com. We're also Spirits and Cousins on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook.
I'm Tish.
And I'm Courtney.
And until next time, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.